In this video, we're going to look at the request feedback tool available in Springboard. The first thing we do is click into our candidate grid, and we can see on the left-hand side we've got our process, our recruitment process. One thing to note is the request feedback tool cannot be used from the current folder that I'm highlighting here. It needs to be created from one of the subfolders under the current folder. For this one, we're going to just select all of the candidates in the screening folder. We're going to right-click on those candidates, come down and select request feedback. This will bring up our request feedback wizard. So essentially it's a 4-step wizard which allows you to create a feedback email which is then generated to your hiring manager or panel for them to click into and review the candidates. So step 1, it gives you a list of all of the candidates you've selected. Simply click on next. From here you can enter the name of the hiring manager, or you can come down and enter a full panel of people who are going to review these candidates. If you've got more than 5 reviewers on the panel, you can simply come down and go add more rows, and you can see that will add additional rows to that particular page. So once we're happy with that, we click on next, and this brings us into step 3, where we can put in some notes for guidance for the hiring manager and panel. We can also say that we want to allow panel members to see each other's feedback in there. We can select the feedback due date. We might say it's the 27th of July, for instance. And we can also say that we want to notify the recruiter when the feedback has been completed. So when we click on finish, this will actually generate an email to the hiring manager or those that you've entered in the panel. And on that email, they'll have a link, as we can see here. Again, this email is configurable by client. You can add your own content in here. And obviously, it will show any of those notes for guidance that we would have entered on step 3 of the feedback wizard. So when we click on the link here, this brings us into our request feedback wizard, where we simply confirm that the details are correct. The feedback wizard is also fully mobile responsive, so it works very well across all mobile devices. So if you have hiring managers who are not residing in the office, don't work in the office, you can send this out to them and they can review candidates on their mobile or on their iPad or Samsung or whatever device they're working from. So once we click on enter, this brings us into a list of the candidates. Again, if there was any guidance, it would show in this little pop-up. We can see that the due date is the 27th as we nominated within that wizard. And we simply click on got it, and that will remove that little pop-up there for us. So from here, what we can see is we've got our candidates within the request feedback wizard. We can then click on our little detail view up here, which will bring us into a drill down option of what those candidates look like, where we can see their resume and application form. On the left hand side here, we can see what options we have in terms of delivering that feedback. So we can see that we can say yes, no, or maybe against that particular candidate. And we can also provide any feedback and also select from some of the structured data that we've created as well. So let's just run through this and say for each candidate and see what it looks like. Up in the top right hand corner, we can just click on our next button to navigate to the next candidate. So very simple to get through again. And on this candidate, we can see that we've selected some options. We might say that again, they're not best qualified for this particular role. And we've selected no against that candidate. And if we click onto our next one, we can see that we're going to select yes. And in this drop down, we might just say that it's, we're just going to say that maybe it's not best qualified and select no here. Click next, and you can see we've already come along and populated some of this information in here. Just click next. As we go through this, when we're actually happy with all of the information that we've entered, down at the bottom of the screen we've got this confirm and submit, and essentially what that does is it creates that report back in Springboard and notifies the recruiter that the report has actually been built for them. So if we click on confirm and submit, that will actually send a notification to the recruiter. If we jump back into Springboard, we can see that there's a little I against the folder, the screening folder here. And essentially what that means is that the report is available. So if we right click on the folder that we've requested it from, and we can simply go view feedback. And what we can see here is an actual report of all of the information that has actually been pushed back into Springboard. So we'll just pop that up and we can see that the feedback report for the program manager, we can see each of the candidates that were listed in there along with the comments and then the structured information that we selected from the drop down. So candidates can then come, or recruiters can come along and actually push candidates through the process based on the feedback given by the hiring managers or the panel that you've generated that request out to. That concludes our video on the request feedback tool. If you do have any additional questions, please contact your Springboard account manager for additional information.